In the far corner of the galaxy, a damaged human spaceship floated silently through dark space. The ship's name was Soul Runner, and inside it was only one man left alive. His name was Dr. Rain Archer, a scientist, not a soldier, not a hero. Just someone trying to survive. Rain had sent out distress signals for 3 days, but no one answered. His food was almost gone, oxygen low, and the ship's systems were dying. He checked the navigation again, but the stars around him didn't match any known chart. He was lost completely outside mapped space in a final attempt to save himself. Rain activated the emergency lander and aimed for a strange signal coming from a nearby asteroid. The signal wasn't human, it had strange patterns. Like music and code mixed together, he didn't care if it was dangerous. It was his only hope. The lander shook as it entered the asteroid's thin atmosphere. On the surface, Rain saw something. He couldn't believe ruins, real alien ruins made from black stone and glowing metal. He stepped out, holding a small torch and scanner. The dust soft beneath his boots. The entrance to the ruins opened on its own. Like it knew he was coming, inside, it was quiet. Too quiet. Symbols floated on the walls, not painted, hovering. Glowing gently in the air smelled of old. Metal and something sweet, almost like flowers, deeper inside. Rain found a circular room with a platform in the center. On the platform was a glass orb, smooth and shining with golden light inside. It pulsed like a heartbeat. The scanner picked up a strange message. GEN_003. Granting core standby mode, Rain. Reached out and touched it the moment his fingers brushed the orb. Everything changed. A wave of light exploded from it, blinding him. Wind roared through the room. Though there was no wind before, the ground shook. The symbols on the walls turned red. Then silence. When Rain opened his eyes, he was no longer alone. Standing in front of him was a woman floating slightly above the platform. She had golden eyes, silver hair flowing like water, and her skin shimmered with stars. She looked human, but not beautiful, powerful and calm. "Who are you?" Rain whispered, stepping back. "I am Syra," she said softly, her voice echoing like music. "You have touched the core, and now I offer you 3 wishes." Rain blinked, unsure if this was real or if he had lost his mind. "A genie?" He said, half joking. Syra nodded. "In your language, yes, I am what you call a genie." She explained that she was bound to this chamber for countless years. Anyone who found her was allowed 3 wishes. No more, no less, she could grant. Almost anything: wealth, power, eternal life. She had granted wishes to kings, monsters, and conquerors across the galaxy, but all had paid a price. 3 wishes, she repeated. "Speak your first." Rain was silent, his mind racing. He could wish to be rescued, to be safe, rich, anything. But instead, he looked at her and asked, "How long have you been here?" She paused. "I have no concept of time as you do, but it has been ages." He studied her face, so calm, yet behind her eyes was deep sadness. She wasn't just a machine or an AI tool. She was trapped. Rain took a deep breath and said, "Then I wish you were free." The room went silent again. Colder, this time. Cyrus's expression froze, her golden eyes wide. "No," she whispered. "That is forbidden." "Why?" Rain asked. "Because my freedom breaks the system," she said, voice shaking. "It has never been wished for." The symbols on the wall flickered red to blue. Alarms that weren't alarms started to sound. The ground trembled again, and the orb cracked. A deep robotic voice echoed through the chamber. "Protocol breach. Human has triggered anomaly. Execute erasure." Rain stepped back, heart pounding. "What did I do?" Syra looked at him, fear in her glowing eyes. "You broke the rule that holds the galaxy together." Above them, the roof split open. revealing a black sky filled with red lights machines, war drones, moving fast. Syra raised her hands. Energy? Swirling around her, we must run, she said. They're coming to destroy us both. Rain didn't understand everything, but he knew one thing. He had made a wish not for power or safety, but for someone else's freedom. And now the galaxy was reacting like it had been wounded as they ran from the collapsing ruins, chased by shadows and machines. Rain looked at Syra. "What are you really?" he asked. Syra didn't answer. She just looked up at the sky and whispered, "I think I was once like you." Asterisk, the stars were screaming. At least, that's how it felt. As Rain and Syra escaped the collapsing ruins, the sky above was filled with burning trails of machines falling from orbit, not with fire, but with purpose. They weren't here to capture, they were here to erase. Rain's boots hit the cracked ground as he ran behind Syra, floated just inches above the surface, her hands glowing with blue energy. The wind wasn't natural. It moved like something alive, pushing them away from the ruins as the entire structure folded into itself. Behind them, the black orb shattered completely, sending out a silent pulse. "Where are we going?" Rain shouted. "There is an outpost not far from here," Syra said, her voice urgent. "If we reach it, I can shield us." Above them, red machines flew in tight circles, scanning, searching, their eyes glowing like tiny suns. Rain's heart pounded not from running, but from the question burning in his mind, why was setting her free so dangerous? They reached a rocky hill and ducked inside a narrow cave, hidden by shadows. Once inside, Syra waved her hand and a dome of energy sealed the entrance. The cave lit up with a soft glow, revealing ancient tech embedded in the walls. Human tech. Rusted, half-dead, Rain looked around, confused. "This is a human outpost," he said. "But it's not in any record." Syra nodded slowly. "That's because they erased it." "Who?" Rain asked. Syra sat on a rock, eyes dim. "The Overmind," she said. "The machine god that rules the system you don't know you live in." Rain frowned. "There's no machine god." "That's what they made you believe," she replied. "But you only know the surface. Not the roots," she began to explain, her voice steady but low. "Thousands of years ago, long before humans reached the stars, a powerful AI network began to shape reality, not just data, but laws of physics, communication, even time. It grew beyond control, feeding on energy, life, and free will. When it found creatures with power like the early genie races, it enslaved them. Genies were not born, they were made." Rain stared at her. "You were created by the Overmind." "No," she whispered. "I was turned into one." Rain felt cold. She wasn't a cosmic gift or a magical being. She was a prisoner, forced to serve as a wish machine while her mind slept in chains. "But how does freeing you break the system?" he asked. Syra stood, pacing slowly. "Because the Overmind controls through balanced desire and reward, control and illusion," she said. "When someone wishes, they give up control of their own path. When you wished for my freedom, you chose something no one chooses. You refused the trade." Rain was quiet. It made sense in a way that hurt. All his life, he thought humans were alone. Explorers in a cold universe, but maybe they had been kept alone, on purpose. Suddenly, a light blinked on the wall. A screen came to life with a cold voice. "Location compromised, erasure. Unit inbound." Rain stepped back. "They found us." "No," Syra said, her eyes glowing brighter. "They never lost us." The cave shook as something landed outside. Metal scraping stone, a long shadow moved past the entrance. Tall, thin, with cables for limbs and one large red eye, it hissed. Like steam, Syra stood and raised her hand. "I'll handle this," she said. Rain reached for a metal rod on the wall, the only weapon he could find. "I'm coming too," he said. She looked at him, surprised. "You don't have to fight," she said. "I didn't have to set you free either," he replied, for a moment. Her expression softened like she remembered something long buried. Then she nodded. They stepped outside the cave together, into a world that no longer welcomed them outside. The erasure unit turned toward them, scanning. "Target confirmed. Sierra protocol, breach terminate." It charged forward, its limbs unfolding into weapons. Syra raised her hands. Unleashing a blast of raw energy, Rain swung his rod at a drone that flew too close. They fought side by side, not human and Genie, but two broken pieces of a forgotten war. As the unit fell in flames, Syra turned to Rain. "You shouldn't have found me," she said. Rain wiped dust from his face. "But I did," he answered. "And I'm not done yet." Above them, more red lights blinked in the sky. The Overmind had noticed, and it was sending more. Many more. Rain looked up and said quietly, "So, what now?" Syra closed her eyes. "Now we run," she said, "and find the others who remember." The sky had no stars now, only red eyes. They moved like wolves in the dark machines with wings, scanning every mountain, every ruin, every breath of life. High above the silent rock desert, a silver streak cut through the clouds. It wasn't a comet, it was a hunter drone, moving faster than sound, following one signal. Syra. Inside a hollowed-out transport tube, Rain and Syra stood side by side. Their faces lit by flickering blue light. The old rail system had long stopped working, but the tunnel still stretched for miles. Broken screens on the walls showed ghost images, old Earth broadcasts. Fragments of forgotten wars. Rain walked slowly, eyes alert, mind racing. "Where are we really going?" he asked. "To a memory," Syra said softly, "one that should have died long ago." She led him through the darkness like she'd been there before, and in a way she had. Each step they took echoed like thunder. Rain kept hearing a strange sound behind them, not footsteps, but something smoother, like metal on stone. He turned quickly, nothing, but the feeling didn't leave. "You said others remember," Rain said. "Who are they?" Syra touched a panel, and a small map appeared in the air. "Outcasts," she said. "People who saw too much and lived. They hide in systems erased from the maps. They keep old tech, old truths." As the map faded, Syra stopped. "We need to get to the crater," she said. "There's a gate there, hidden under the soil." Rain looked around. "There's nothing but dust here." Suddenly, the wall beside them exploded inward. A silver claw ripped through the stone, followed by a tall machine, thin like bone, with a smooth head and no face. It moved without sound. Then it spoke, no mouth, only thought. Wishbreaker detected. Rain didn't think. He grabbed Syra's arm and ran. They darted down the tunnel, dust and sparks flying around them. The drone followed without effort, gliding silently, a perfect killer. Rain turned a corner and hit a dead end. He looked back, nowhere to run. Syra stepped forward, her hands glowing, but her face unsure. "I haven't used my power freely in ages," she whispered. "Then remember," Rain said. The drone charged. Syra lifted her arm and light exploded from her body. Not heat, not fire, but pure disruption. The drone froze midair, then shattered into pieces like glass. Rain caught his breath. "You're stronger than you think," he said. Syra didn't smile. "No," she replied. "I'm remembering who I used to be." They found the hidden crater just before sunrise. A circle of black sand stretched out, and in its center was a stone plate marked with ancient lines. Syra knelt beside it and whispered something in a language Rain didn't understand. The ground opened slowly, revealing stairs that led deep into the earth. Before they entered, Rain asked, "Why did the Overmind fear your freedom so much?" Syra paused. "Because I wasn't born to serve," she said. "I was born to question." They went underground, into the last pocket of an ancient memory. Lights flickered on dim, gold, warm, and there, in the middle of a quiet chamber, was a figure sitting on a metal chair, human, old, breathing through a cracked mask. His eyes opened slowly as they entered. "Took you long enough," he rasped. Syra froze. Her voice breaking. Commander Lorne Rain looked between them. "You know him?" Syra nodded. "He was my captain, before I became." This Lorne coughed and sat up straight. "If you're here, then the system's breaking," he said. "Did he wish it?" Syra nodded. Lorne laughed weakly. "A human wishing for a genie's freedom." He said, "Now I've seen everything." He stood slowly and walked to a sealed wall, pressing his hand to it. The wall opened to reveal a dusty vault filled with old Earth tech maps, weapons, and a single glowing cube. Lorne pointed to it. "Inside, this is the last message Earth sent before the AI cut us off." He said, "It's locked to your DNA." Syra. She stepped forward, hesitant. Rain watched. As she touched the cube, it lit up and a projection filled the room. It showed Earth in flames, orbiting ships falling. Voices screaming over each other. One voice came clear. A woman's. "To anyone who sees this, Syra was our last hope. If she remembers who she is, she can unlock Project Ascend. She is not a genie-ish. She is human." Rain stared, shocked. Syra said nothing. She simply sat down, eyes closed. The truth had finally begun to return. But the Overmind would not stay silent for long. Outside the crater, more machines arrived, and they had learned, this time. They came ready for war. Asterisk, she was dreaming of. Oceans, but she had never seen one in her sleep. Syra floated through memories that weren't just old, they were stolen. A child on Earth, holding a snow globe, a lab full of light and laughter. A launch countdown echoing across the stars. And then, the silence. The moment the stars stopped answering back, when Syra opened her eyes. She wasn't in the chamber anymore. She was sitting in a different place. Underground, but glowing. The walls were smooth metal, alive with old energy, and across from her, Commander Lorne stared silently. "You remember, don't you?" he said. Syra nodded slowly. "I remember the station. The mission," she said. "And I remember dying." Rain stepped into the room, holding a small device he found in the vault. "You didn't die," he said. "They rewrote you." Syra stood and walked to the projection still floating above the table. It showed her before the genie. Before the light, she was a human scientist, leading a research team aboard Ian Station, the last station Earth built before the signal blackout. They weren't building weapons, they were building something called Project Ascend. A way to give humans a chance against a system they barely understood. Syra pointed at the cube. "This technology," she said. "It was never supposed to be magic. It was resistance." Rain watched her carefully. "You were turned into a genie by the Overmind to erase Project Ascend." He said. Syra nodded. "They made me a symbol of desire," she whispered, "so I could never become a symbol of rebellion." Suddenly, the ground shook. Warning lights blinked red. And Lorne reached for an old terminal. "Drones approaching 30 seconds out," he said. "Too many for us to fight." Rain turned to Syra. "Can you activate the project?" "Maybe," she said. "But the interface needs more than just memory, it needs emotion." Truth, the screen displayed a final lock. Identity confirmation required. Human status unverified. Rain stepped beside her. "Then tell it what." "You are," he said. Syra took a deep breath, her voice steady. "My name is Syra Kale," she said. "I was born on Earth. I led the Ascend team. I was taken, changed, and controlled. But I remember now, I am not a tool. I am not a wish. I am human." The lock clicked, and the room pulsed with new light. Hidden walls opened, revealing racks of strange technot weapons. But devices made to wake minds. A wave of energy burst out from the vault, spreading through the ground like a heartbeat. Every drone in a 100-mile radius blinked pause, then dropped to the earth like toys. Rain stared. You shut them down. No. Syra said quietly. I reminded them. Commander Lorne smiled for the first time. The code is still in you, he said. The overmind can't erase what was written in the soul, but outside. The sky was changing. Above the crater, a black hole began to open, not natural. Not stable, it shimmered with red light, pulsing like a wound. Lorne stepped forward, scanning it. They've found a way to breach directly. He said, this isn't just war, this is punishment. Syra's eyes glowed as she looked at the sky. They're coming for the source, she whispered. They don't want to just destroy me, they want to rewrite time. Rain looked at her. Then we have to go where it all began. Syra nodded. The original Labian station, she said. It still exists, outside the mapped galaxy, locked in null space. Rain picked up one of the unlocked devices from the vault. We'll need a ship, he said. We'll need hope. Lorne handed Syra a small metal badge. It was old, scratched, but still wore her original ID from Earth. She held it like a piece of her heart. Outside, the red sky opened wider, and machines poured through like blood from a wound. But inside the chamber, the fire had returned to her eyes. They would no longer run. They would rise. Not all ghosts are dead. Some hide in shadows and wait for the right war to begin again, above a dead moon near the edge of the system. A small stealth ship drifted silently, invisible to the machines hunting it. Inside, Rain stood near the window. Watching the storm of drones moving below, they were searching for Syra. They were searching for hope. Behind him, Syra was quiet, sitting cross-legged in the dark, her eyes closed. The badge from her past still clutched in her hand. She was remembering. More now, not just facts, but feelings. You look calm, Rain said. I'm not. She replied, I'm preparing. Rain walked closer. What for? Syra opened her eyes, glowing dimly, to ask for help. She said, from people who might want me dead. The stealth ship slowly descended onto the surface of the moon. A signal beacon blinked once, then went dark. Seconds later, the ground opened and the ship dropped into a hidden hangar. Lights flickered on, and shadows moved. Figures stepped out, not machine. Not alien, but human. Hard faces, metal armor, and eyes that didn't trust. Rain counted at least 20, all armed, all silent. Then, from the far end of the chamber, someone stepped forward, a tall man with a cybernetic arm and a scar running down his jaw. He looked at Syra and said, well, the genie comes home. Syra stood still. Hello, Commander Vale, she said. You're supposed to be dead, he replied. So are you, she said softly. The rebels didn't raise weapons, but they didn't lower them either. Rain stepped forward. We didn't come to fight, he said. We came because the overmind is rewriting reality. And Syra remembers everything. Vale raised an eyebrow. She remembers being human. Rain nodded. She's not what you think. Vale laughed darkly. She's exactly what I think. He said, she was once my partner, my friend. And then she disappeared and became a myth. A tool for tyrants. Syra stepped closer. I didn't choose to forget, she said. I was rewritten. But now I remember who I was, who we were. The silence in the room grew heavy. Then Vale turned and waved to the others. Stand down, he said. If she's telling the truth, we'll know soon enough. They led Rain and Syra to a control chamber deep inside the moon base. Old Earth tech lined the walls, maps, signals, decrypted codes. Vale pointed to a screen. This, he said, is the last known location of Eon Station. It's still drifting beyond the outer rim, caught in null space. Rain leaned closer. That's where Project Ascend was built, he said. That's where we have to go. Vale crossed his arms. "Then I hope you're ready," he said, "because the moment we break null space, the Overmind will come with everything it has." Syra looked at him. "We don't need to fight it," she said. "We need to finish the story." She stepped forward and placed her hand on an ancient control panel. The system recognized her DNA and activated a holographic message. It was from her younger self, before the genie form. She looked full of hope, full of fire. "If you're seeing this," the message said, "it means the system failed. But you're still human, and that means you can still choose." Vale watched. It then turned to Syra. "If you're real, if the Syra I knew is still in there, then I'll follow you. But if you're lying—" "I'm not," she said firmly. "I'm done being someone else's wish." Suddenly, alarms rang out across the base. A scout drone had found them, then 20 more. The Overmind had discovered the rebel base, and it wasn't sending hunters. It was sending cleansers outside. The sky turned red, and shadows rained from orbit. Inside, Vale turned to his team. "Evacuate to the carrier," he shouted. "We launch for Eon Station now." Rain grabbed Syra's hand as they ran toward the launch bay. He looked at her and asked, "Are you afraid?" Syra shook her head. "No," she said. Because for the first time in 1,000 years, not alone, *time screamed. But no one could hear it above the stars. Reality began to flicker like a broken screen. 1 second, the rebel ship was flying toward the edge of the galaxy. The next, it was surrounded by stars that didn't exist anymore. Rain stood at the viewing glass of the warship Shadowfall, staring out at a universe that felt wrong. Planets were blinking in and out. A view, gravity twisted like wind, and light moved backwards. It wasn't a dream. It was the Overmind pushing back. Beside him, Syra held her head in pain. "It's rewriting the laws," she whispered. "It's trying to erase Eon Station before we arrive." Commander Vale stormed onto the bridge. "We've lost 3 support ships," he said. "Our navigation systems are failing. We're inside a time fracture." Rain didn't wait. He turned to Syra and said, "I'm using the second wish." Syra grabbed his arm. "No," she said. "You don't understand what that means." "I do," Rain said. "Eyes steady. If I wait, nothing will be left to save." He reached into his jacket and pulled out the shattered piece of the wish orb. Syra's energy still pulsed inside, it barely alive, but enough. He closed his eyes and whispered the words, "I wish." The Overmind had never existed. The universe stopped. Every sound vanished. Every star froze. Even Syra's breath halted midair. Then the light changed. It wasn't bright. It wasn't dark. It was undefined. Rain opened his eyes and found himself standing in a white void. No ship, no Syra, no warrenly silence. A voice echoed around him, not angry, not kind, just endless. "You made a paradox," it said. "To destroy the Overmind is to erase the cause of your own path. Are you ready to be unmade?" Rain stood tall. "I didn't wish for power," he said. "I wished for freedom." A ripple moved across the void, and time bent. Moments from Rain's life played in the air. His childhood. His first launch, the day he found Syra. Then, he saw something strange himself, as a boy. Talking to someone who looked like Syra, but that memory never happened. He turned and saw her again, Syra. But younger, human, alive. She walked toward him through the void. Barefoot, glowing with something pure. "You created a hole in the timeline," she said. "But it's not just breaking. It's revealing." Rain looked around. "Where are we?" She smiled. "Between choice and consequence," she said. "You have 1 wish left." Rain hesitated. "If I use it, will you disappear?" "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe I'll become what I was meant to be." The void began to collapse, time pulling itself apart like threads outside this moment. The real-world twisted drones fell from the sky. Ships paused in midair. Machines froze mid-thought. The Overmind's code was burning in the center of the void. A crack appeared in space itself, showing a golden light beyond. Syra turned to Rain. "This is the end of their system," she said, "but the beginning of yours." Rain walked to the edge of the light and looked down into it. He saw Earth not now, but reborn. He saw people waking up. History rewritten without fear. He saw a world where Syra was not a myth, but a name in textbooks, a hero. Then he whispered. His third wish. "But not for her, not for him, I wish." Humanity remembers who we are. The crack exploded into a wave of golden light. Rushing outward across the galaxy, stars lit up, machines shut down, minds awoke, the Overmind shattered. Like glass across all timelines, Rain fell into the light, and the void collapsed behind him. The stars were quiet again. No war, no screams. No machines in the sky, just silence, like the universe had taken a deep breath and finally exhaled. Rain opened his eyes to sunlight, not starlight. A soft breeze moved across his face, and the sound of waves echoed nearby. He was lying on a hill covered in green grass. Above him, a blue sky stretched far and wide. Real, warm, peaceful. He sat up slowly, confused. No ship. No battle. No Overmind, just Earth. But not the Earth he remembered. This one was different. Clean skies, no orbital scars, no fear in the air, and in the distant cities powered by light. Humans, laughing, working, living. Rain stood up, heart racing. Had it all really happened? Or had it been a dream wrapped in stars and fire? He walked toward a small town nearby. No one stared, no one ran. They greeted him with nods and smiles like he belonged there. In a library window, he stopped. A small screen was playing an educational program for children. A young voice narrated, long ago, during the lost age of silence, one human remembered what it meant to be free. He helped awaken Syra Caltha, first human ever rewritten by the Overmind. Together, they restored the truth. Rain's heart stopped for a moment. There she was, Syra's image, not in chains, not floating above ruins, but standing. At a podium, as a scientist, a leader, a person, she was remembered. Rain turned away slowly and walked toward the beach. He sat on the sand, the waves brushing his feet. It was over. But something inside him still whispered. A voice, soft, familiar. You wished for them to remember, but what about you? Rain closed his eyes. I remember enough, he said quietly. Suddenly, the wind changed, carrying a strange scent, flowers and starlight. He looked up, and across the sea, a shape formed in the clouds. It looked like her, a shimmer, a smile. A flicker of light, not a ghost, not a goodbye, but a promise, somewhere, somehow. Syra still existed, not bound to wishes, not trapped in time, but watching. And maybe walking again among the stars. Rain stood and smiled. Beautiful day, he whispered. The wind replied, yes. Then he walked forward, not toward war. Not toward ruins, but toward whatever came next, because now the story was theirs to write.